You have likely heard someone say, "I am left-brained." "She is right-brained." You know, people say this in schools. They say this in self-help books. They say this all over the internet. The idea sounds neat and tidy. It promises a quick, simple way to explain who we are and why we act the way we do. It offers a label that feels like a key, unlocking the mystery of your personality. The origin of this pervasive myth is not found in fiction, but in groundbreaking and Nobel Prize-winning science. In the 1960s, a neurobiologist named Roger Sperry and his colleague Michael Gazzaniga conducted remarkable research on a small group of patients. These individuals suffered from severe, debilitating epilepsy. To provide them relief from their life-threatening seizures, surgeons performed a radical procedure. They severed the corpus callosum, a thick bundle of nerve fibers, the brain's main communication highway between left and right hemispheres. The surgery was a last resort, but it worked, dramatically reducing seizures. This created an unprecedented opportunity for scientists. For the first time, they could study each hemisphere in relative isolation. The left hemisphere controls the right side of the body and processes information from the right visual field. So an image shown to the right visual field goes to the left hemisphere only. But when an object was shown only to the left visual field, it went to the non-verbal right hemisphere. The patient would report seeing nothing. The left hemisphere, which controls speech, was blind to the object. If asked to pick up the object with their left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere, they could pick it correctly. The right hemisphere knew the object but could not speak its name. It felt like two separate consciousnesses in one head. The nuanced findings from Sperry's split-brain research were too tempting. Popular media couldn't resist simplifying them. Two brains in one head, the story was irresistible. One brain, a logical scientist. The other, a free-spirited artist. That dramatic dichotomy made for great headlines. Magazine articles simplified it further. The subtle reality, these functions showed up when hemispheres were surgically disconnected, was often lost. The press ran with the idea. Later, the self-help industry amplified it. Soon, left brain, right brain was everywhere. Pop psych books promised you could unlock hidden potential by knowing your dominant hemisphere. Corporate consultants built programs around it. Employees were sorted into left-brained analysts and right-brained innovators. Schools used the idea to explain why some excelled in math, while others shone in art class. Quizzes and informal tests solidified the myth. "Are you right-brained or left-brained?" became common in magazines and early websites. The label felt like a revelation for many, but it reinforced a false, limiting belief. While the pop psychology myth was flourishing, neuroscience was making giant leaps forward. The development of new brain imaging technologies, functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI positron emission tomography, PET gave scientists a dynamic view of the living, working brain. These tools allow researchers to observe which parts of the brain become more active when a person is performing a task, when thinking a thought, when feeling an emotion. For the first time, we could watch the brain in action, and the scans debunked the simple left-right personality split. These modern scans tell a very different story. Section 5. Language, Art, Math. A whole brain affair. Take language, the classic left brain activity. For most right-handed people, Broca's area controls grammar. Wernicke's area handles word comprehension. These are in the left hemisphere. But that's only part of the story. The right hemisphere handles context. The right hemisphere handles tone. The right hemisphere handles emotional color. It helps you get the punchline of a joke. It helps you sense sarcasm in a friend's voice. It helps you feel the poetry in a verse. Imagine a friend says, "That's just great," after spilling coffee on their shirt. Your left hemisphere parses the literal words. Your right hemisphere reads the flat tone. Your right hemisphere reads the frustrated expression. That tells you the situation isn't great. Without that, communication would be robotic and literal. We need both hemispheres to navigate nuanced interaction. Language is a duet by the whole brain, not a left side solo. Now consider art, the stereotypical right brain domain. The right hemisphere handles spatial processing. The right hemisphere recognizes broad patterns. But the left hemisphere is vital too. Left brain supports fine motor control for brushwork. Left brain handles planning and sequencing steps. Left brain supplies attention to detail. Even math, often labeled left brain, is whole brain work. Section 6. Why we cling to simple labels. If the scientific evidence against the left brain, right brain personality myth is so overwhelming, why does it remain so popular? The answer lies more in human psychology than in neuroscience. Our brains are naturally drawn to patterns and shortcuts. We live in a complex, messy world, and simple categories give us a comforting sense of order and predictability. The idea that all of humanity can be sorted into two neat personality types. The logical, the creative, is incredibly appealing. It simplifies the chaos. It provides a quick and easy framework for understanding ourselves and the people around us. These labels also offer a convenient explanation for our strengths, weaknesses. It can be comforting to say, I'm just not a math person, I'm right-brained. This statement removes the pressure to improve in an area where we struggle. It frames our abilities not as skills to be developed, but as fixed traits determined by our neurology. Furthermore, these labels can become part of our identity. It can feel good to identify as a creative type or a logical thinker. These identities connect us with like-minded communities and can even feel like a badge of honor. The myth taps into our desire for self-knowledge and personal validation. The problem is that this identity is built on a false premise, and it can become a cage that limits our potential. Section 7. Rewiring our thinking. Busting this myth is not just an academic exercise. It has real-world importance for how we learn, teach, and parent. The first step is to consciously change the language we use. As teachers and parents, we must stop labeling children as left-brained or right-brained. When a child struggles with math, instead of saying, "You're more of an artist," we should say, "This is tricky. Let's find a new way to look at the problem." We should praise effort, persistence, creative problem-solving, not supposed innate talents. This simple shift in language can help foster a growth mindset. The belief that abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. Educators can design lessons that intentionally engage the whole brain. Instead of siloing subjects, build bridges between them. In a history class, create a timeline, logical, left hemisphere associated task. Draw a scene, creative, right hemisphere associated task. Write a poem, creative, right hemisphere associated task. In a math class, solve equations, create visual representations of geometric principles. As individual learners, challenge your self-imposed labels. If you've thought you're not creative, take a drawing class, learn a musical instrument, start a journal. If you've avoided numbers and logic, work through a book of puzzles, learn the basics of a coding language. The brain's ability to change and adapt throughout life is called neuroplasticity. When you practice a new skill, you're rewiring your brain, strengthening connections, and building new pathways. Section 8. Embracing your whole, brilliant brain. In the end, the truth about our brains is both simpler and more profound than the myth. The brain is not divided into two warring factions: logic, creativity. It is a single, wonderfully complex, and dynamically integrated network. It thrives on connection, collaboration, communication. The story of our brain is not a story of division, but of unity. Every thought you have, every emotion you feel, and every action you take is the product of a symphony of neural activity that spans both of your hemispheres. You are not half a brain, you are a whole one. So, let us drop the old, restrictive labels. The next time you hear someone describe themselves as left-brained or right-brained, you can gently and kindly share what you have learned. Explain that we are all whole-brained. This is not just a semantic correction, it is a message of hope and potential. You're not left-brained or right-brained, you're just brilliantly human. If this resonated, like, comment, and share if you've ever believed the myth and learned something new.